Hello, children, and welcome back to your English class. I am Akshay.
And I'm Gabriela Tzilakidis. Welcome to our English class. What are we going to do today? Let's see.
Let's see. If you remember, the last time we had talked about the past simple and the past continuous. We had also practiced. So today it's time to have a look at the past perfect and the past perfect continuous, how it is used and how it is formed. So if you're ready, let's go.
Very good. Spot the mistakes. Your turn. I think...
This, Gabriela, if you remember, we had given you some homework last time. Let's have a look who has done the homework this time.
Okay.
Quickly, we'll go through it. Remember, this is the simple past, the past simple, and the past continuous. So let's have a look. What did he see while he swam? Once again, did past tense, swam also past tense. But one action was going on. Which was that action? Swam. So this will change into what did he see while he was swimming? Action going on in the past. Past continuous.
Very good.
The next one.
I not was watching the TV, so Sarah put it off. Okay, maybe the first two words, not, and the second and the third one, not was,
Of
are
course.
not in their place, and put it off is not correct also.
Not at all. And one more thing, remember, children, these words, the irregular verbs, please be careful. Put is an irregular verb.
Very good.
And let's go on to the next one. I talked to Stefan when the phone ringing. Only keep in mind the action that was going on in the past. This is the action going on in the past. So this should be in the...
I was talking to Stefan when the phone rang. So this action is the shorter one, and the other one was talking is the longer one, in progress.
In progress. Similarly, the next one, out here there is just a mistake, not just in the tense, but also in the formation. Let's have a look. They didn't like the movie very much. This will change to didn't like and find. Simple past, found.
Very good. And the last one, I talked to my friend Lucas when Dan was asking me to dance. Okay, so it was, yes,
Yeah.
it was an ongoing action,
Exactly.
an action in progress. For the first one, I was talking to my friend Lucas when Dan came to me and asked me to dance, a shorter one action.
Shorter action, and this was the action going on. And
Very good.
let's move on. A quick revision just to keep our minds on exactly what the tenses are
So
like.
I'm the present, okay,
Gabriela
not the
is
president,
not
Mrs.
the-
President.
At the present,
Okay.
I am in the past, and Gabriela is in the present. If I go out here,
Very good.
yesterday something happened. I went to school. I walked to school, past tense. But while I was walking, something happened, past continuous. I was walking to school when I saw the accident. And now let's move on to the past perfect. I had finished my work when my friend came along. If you see the sentence carefully, you will be able to understand what exactly is past perfect. Past perfect is one action completed when something else came in, when some other action interrupted it in the past. Similarly, past perfect continuous, quite the same like past continuous, only difference, action is going on for a very long time or for a longer time. In the past, I had been working for 2 hours when my friend came. So if we remember that, I think it should be a bit easier. So
Very
should
good.
we move on, Gabriela?
Yes, of course.
Now let's have a look. Today we are going to talk about the past perfect, and the past perfect continuous, the uses and the formation. So, let's go.
Okay, the past perfect. When do we use the past perfect? For a completed action before another action in the past, or for the duration of a completed action. For example, when talk about a completed action before another action in the past, vorbim despre o acțiune care s-a încheiat înaintea unei alte acțiuni din trecut. De exemplu, când m-am întors acasă, părinții mei plecaseră. Da? Plecaseră is the past perfect. Okay? Când am ajuns acasă is the other action in the past. Simple. Okay, let's look at the diagram. A completed action before another action. For example, I had eaten before she arrived. The second action is in the past simple. Duration of a completed action, here, I had waited for 2 hours before he arrived. Am așteptat timp de 2 ore până a ajuns el. Okay? So, it emphasizes the duration of a completed action,
Correct.
not a completed action itself. Okay?
Thanks
Good.
a lot, Gabriela.
You're welcome.
Let's move on. What we need now, I think, is another example so
Very
that
good.
it becomes a bit
I'm in
easier
the
for
present.
us. Always in the present. But let's have a look. Gabriela in the present. Something happened before that. Let's say yesterday in the past. Yesterday in the past, I finished my homework, my work, but when I finished my work, something else happened. So that is when I use the past perfect. I had finished my work when something happened, when my friend came.
Very good. For example, in Romanian, ieri am terminat ce aveam de lucru, da? I had finished my work when my friend came. Terminasem ce am avut de lucru când prietenul meu a apărut, a venit. Okay, let's move on.
And another example, let's see if you can do this.
Good.
Again, Gabriela, as
I'm in the
usual,
present.
always in the present. In the past, yesterday, I went to the theater. I reached the theater at 8:45 p.m. But when I reached the theater, I found my friend there.
Very good.
Not my friend, rather, I found that the film had started.
Had started.
The film had started at 8:30.
Very
I
good.
reached at 8:45.
Very good.
So when I make a sentence with this, the past perfect, it will be
The film had started. Okay, so when I arrived at the theater, the film had already started. The
Oh.
past of the past. Trecutul trecutului.
Exactly.
Da? Okay, very
or I
good.
can also say the film had already started when I arrived at the theater.
Of
So,
course.
action in the past, before that action is the past perfect, and this I arrived becomes the simple past. The
Very good.
reason why we call it, if you remember this much only, the past of the past, it makes it easier because it's an action that happened in the past but before another action in the past.
Okay, teacher Akshay, can I ask you something, please?
Please.
If we take this sentence and put it after this, the second one, do we need to use the comma? What do you think so?
Not at all. That's a good point, actually. When we
Okay.
change the sentence, Gabriela, it will be the film had already started when I arrived at the theater.
Okay.
So there will be no comma there.
No comma. Okay, very good. Let's see how we can form the past perfect. Okay, we've got the persons here. I, you, he, she, it, we, you, and they. Good. We use had, the past simple of the verb have, which is an auxiliary verb, este un verb auxiliar ajutător ca în limba română. Și noi avem în limba română. Da? Am plecat. Acel am este a avea. Had and past participle. Da? Participiul trecut, care în limba română este făcut, luat, cântat, dormit, da? A treia formă. And the negative form Also the same persons, had not or hadn't, if we want to use the short form, and past participle. And the last one, we need to use had in front of the sentence, of the interrogative one. The subjects here, you can also use Akshay, Gabriela, Adrian, our cameraman, okay, anybody else, if you want to. And past participle.
Past participle. So great, Gabriela. We have the past perfect. Remember, only had, hadn't, and of course had for the question. But now we come to the next part, which is just as important, the past participle. This is the third form of the verb, and you must know these forms.
Oh my goodness.
I know. The first form, the second form, the third form. These are just a few. There are many, many more verbs like this. But
right.
Let's have a look at the main ones, like this one. Be, the past tense becomes was or were, and the past participle, we have been. And I always feel that the best way to find out the past participle is just by adding the word have or has or had, such as drink. Yesterday I had drunk.
Drunk.
So
drink, drank, drunk.
the word comes almost automatically. Begin, began, begun, and so on and so forth.
Okay, good.
Come, came, he had come.
Good.
Do, did, I had done my homework. Drink, yesterday I drank some milk. I had drunk some milk. Eat, ate, eaten. Remember this one. I had eaten.
Very good.
Find, found remains the same. Give.
Gave, given. Okay. Go, went, gone. You can see there are three types of verbs with two forms, with three forms, or one form.
Or one form. You're
one
right.
form, cut, 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 for example. Shut, shut, shut.
True.
With two forms, for example, let's see, come, came, come. The first form is
came, come.
the same with the last one.
Correct.
And with three forms, we've got go, went,
and
gone. Okay, good. Know, knew, known. You know that.
Again, three, yeah.
Very good. K is silent. You don't need to pronounce it. Okay. And also learn, learned, learned, or learned with ed.
With ed.
Good. Leave, left, left. Make, made, made. And say, said, said.
Great. So keep in mind these past participles, especially when we are talking about the past perfect. And now let's have a small look at a video so that we can remember the past perfect.
How was your date last night, Jake?
It turned out okay, but I had some problems along the way.
Why? What happened?
It started when I was getting ready to meet Anne. After I had brushed my teeth, I used some mouthwash to make sure my breath would be extra fresh. At first, I was fine, though it was a strong taste. But the taste got more intense as I rinsed my teeth, and my mouth felt like it was on fire. Then I looked at the bottle I had used. I realized I had rinsed my mouth with aftershave instead of mouthwash. The mouthwash and aftershave bottles were right next to each other. I quickly rinsed my mouth and used the mouthwash from the right bottle this time.
You must have been pretty distracted to make that kind of mistake. Did everything else go okay?
Unfortunately, no. I went to get dressed and realized I had left my best shirt in the washer. I had meant to put it in the dryer before I started getting ready. I went to get it from the washer, but my mother had already put it in the dryer. I was relieved until I took it out. The shirt had shrunk.
Great. So that was a short video just to make us understand a little bit about how to use and how to form the past perfect. So what's needed now is a little bit of
Practice, because practice makes perfect. Okay, what do we have to do here, Teacher Akshay?
Well, it's quite simple. I'd like the students to take a look at the sentence and try to find out which was the action that had happened before another action in the past. Take, for example, the first one. They took a shower after they finished the game. This obviously means that first they finished the game, after that they took a shower in the past. So we have the past perfect out here. They took a shower after they had finished the game, and similarly the second one.
Okay, Alex watched TV after he had eaten lunch. Okay, so first, his first action was that he ate his lunch, and after that he watched TV. Okay, there is a clue here. After. You can understand it from it that there are two actions, one after the other in the past. Okay.
That's a great clue, Gabriela. Now let's see if the students can do this one. Mom asked me why not clean up my room. So all you have to do is find out which action was there before. The first action was obviously that I hadn't cleaned up my room. Then my mother came and asked me. So we have Mom asked me why I hadn't cleaned up my room.
Very good.
And that was the past perfect. We move on now to the past perfect continuous. Try to keep in mind what we said about the past perfect, because there will be some exercises later on. But before that, let's go on to the past perfect continuous.
Good. Okay, when do we use the past perfect continuous, boys and girls? We use it for a past action going on before being interrupted by another action in the past. So there is an action that was going on in the past, okay, for some time. For example, an ongoing past action interrupted by another action. For example, the second verb is in past simple. Let's see. I had been eating when she arrived. Eu mâncam, I had been eating când ea a apărut. Mâncam de ceva vreme, începusem în trecut, da? But what is the difference between I was eating when she arrived and I had been eating when she arrived?
Can you guess? Well, the difference is quite simple. I think we talked about it before, but I was eating when she arrived. I had started eating and it was continuing for some time. But when I say I had been eating, it refers to an action that was going on for a long time. Maybe for an hour, let's say. I had been eating when she arrived.
Very good, Teacher Akshay. Nota 10.
Mulțumesc. Thank you. And we move on to explanations. Once again, Gabriela is right there in the present.
Yes, I'm in the present.
And in the past, I was feeling very exhausted. But why was I feeling exhausted? Because I was running for 2 hours. That means running for 2 hours, past action of this past action. So I had been running for 2 hours and I was exhausted. First action in the past, action before the first action, running. So I had been running for 2 hours and I was exhausted. Another example, just to make it a bit clear.
Very good. I'm in the present.
And in the past,
I arrive at 11 a.m. Okay, good. Eric starts waiting at 9 a.m.
So, Gabriela, I think your friend Eric was waiting for you for almost 2 hours, quite a long time for you.
Good.
This is the action first and the action that happened after that.
After that.
So let's see the tenses used.
Eric had been waiting for 2 hours when I arrived. Mă aștepta de 2 ore când eu am ajuns. Very good.
Thank you, Gabriela.
Let's move on.
Let's move on to the
Okay.
conjugation. How do they form the past perfect continuous?
Okay. Let's see. How can we form the past perfect continuous? Because we've got this aspect, continuous, the verb needs ing, always. When we talk about present tense continuous, when we talk about past perfect continuous, when we talk about future tense continuous, when we hear continuous, we need the verb, the ing form.
The ing
okay?
form. Looking, talking, eating.
Very good. So how do we form in the affirmative? We use the persons, okay? Had plus been, okay? So there are 2 auxiliary verbs, have and be. But you can see been is a past participle here, okay? And had is the second form. Trecutul simplu, iar aici este cum ar veni a 3-a formă, participiul trecut. Sunt 2 verbe auxiliare, a avea și a fi. And the verb that refers to the action itself.
And in the negative, similarly, only remember had not or hadn't, and remember been
Very
plus the ing form, and
The interrogative form we need to use as we did in the past perfect simple. We use had in the first position, afterwards the subject, okay, been, and the verb with ing form, the ing of the verb, okay?
Great.
And question mark, of
and
course.
the question mark, of course. So, Gabriela, past perfect continuous, we must remember had been the main verb.
Very good.
Had been, or the negative hadn't, and in the interrogative, had comes in the front with a question mark and been after the subject. So let's move on and see if we can use this now.
Okay, there are some contractions, okay? Sunt niște forme scurte. For example, I had been, I'd been. Sometimes students make mistakes because they think that apostrophe D means would.
Ah, would,
And
correct.
sometimes they make mistakes. So when you see this form, I'd been, it's I had been.
I had
okay?
been, correct.
You had been, you'd been. He had been, he'd been. She had been, she'd been. It had been, it'd been. Okay? We had been, we'd been. They had been, they'd been. The last one.
And a little bit more about contractions. These are some examples. He had been drinking all day. It had been pouring with rain, but in the negative.
Okay, in negative sentences we may contract the first auxiliary verb and not. We hadn't been living there long, or they hadn't been studying very hard.
Exactly. So we can see in the negative, we cannot write this. He had, this changes to a contraction of had and not. And now, once again, for the past perfect continuous, a few songs just to make sure that we remember this perfectly. Past perfect in the pink. Okay, great. So we saw a little song also about the past perfect continuous. So Gabriela, of course.
You will need to practice now, children. Okay, so let's see. What do we have to do in this exercise? I think we need to use the verbs in the brackets and put them in what?
Of course, the past perfect continuous, because that's
Very
what we
good.
did. So let's have a look. The first one, Ivana dash for hours in the library before she came to the class. So this was the action last. Before that, she was doing something for a long time. Let's see what it is. She had been studying for hours in the library before she came to the class. Similarly, the second one.
Very good. The second one, it's about sleeping, okay? You can see here when I woke her up. So this may be the second action.
Second action.
Yes. So she had been sleeping for 10 hours when I woke her up. She's a lucky girl.
Lucky girl.
Okay. Good. Let's move to the third one.
And similarly, now let's try to find which was the second action and which was the action before that, the first action. When I meet Gabriela, she worked as a teacher for 10 years. So the first action out here, this time we have changed it a little bit. I have put two tenses because I want you to identify which should be in the simple past, which should be in the past continuous. So first action.
First action, when I met
Of
Gabriela.
course. So when I
she-
met Gabriela,
She had been working as a teacher for 10 years. If you wanted to talk about me, you need to know that I've been working as a teacher for 9 years. So you were close.
Close.
Okay, very good.
and the last one. Viorel lived in Galați 2 years. When something happened, he loses his job. So the action that was second was this one.
Very good.
And the action before that going on was that he was living in Galați. So we'll have the past perfect continuous out here. Viorel had been living in Galați for 2 years when he lost his job.
It happens all the time.
All the time.
Very good, children. Let's move on. Let's see the parallel between the past perfect and the past perfect continuous. Okay, so past perfect, when is it used? Is used to indicate an action completed in the past before another action. Okay? And that, you can see, is the form. Had or hadn't plus past participle. You remember that past participle is the third form on the list of irregular verbs, or the form with ed when we talk about regular verbs. For example, he hadn't met me. Met is the past participle.
participle.
Or he hadn't talked to me. Talked is
ED.
the past participle. Ed. Very
Great.
good.
So let's have a look at some examples so that it remains in our mind. Action completed in the past before another action. Yasmina had finished her work when her mother called her. Let's change this to negative. Why don't you try? Hadn't finished her work when her mother called her. And the interrogative. Had Yasmina finished her work when her mother called her?
Very good.
Past perfect. Let's move on to the past perfect continuous.
Okay, so we use past perfect continuous to indicate an action that started in the past and continued till another action in the past. For example, the form of this tense is had or hadn't in the negative plus been plus verb ing form of the verb, okay? Yasmina had been doing her work 4 hours when her mother called her. Yasmina își făcea temele, lucra, da? De ore, de mult timp, când mama ei a chemat-o sau a sunat-o. Yasmina hadn't been doing her work for long when her mother called her. Yasmina nu lucra, nu făcea teme, să zicem, de foarte mult timp, când mama ei a chemat-o sau a sunat-o. And the last one, in the interrogative, had Yasmina been doing her work for long when her mother called her? If you can see, children, there are some clues here. For hours, for long, for long. So these words, yes, refer to a period of time, duration of some action. Okay? Good.
Exactly what you asked me, Gabriela, that why is it different from the past continuous?
Very good.
So, a little duration of time. And let's move on. Of course, to your favorite part of the lesson,
I'm sure about it.
practice makes perfect. Let's see if we can do this. This is in the past perfect continuous. By the time he was 29, he write 10 books. There's a little catch out here because we want you to try to see which one will have the past perfect, which sentence will go in the past perfect continuous. So let's have a look quickly. By the time he was 29, he write 10 books. Can I said he had been writing 10 books?
Yes, of course, you can say. Because you have the time.
We
there.
have the time.
He
Let's
was
have a look.
29. Până la vârsta de 29 de ani, el scrisese 10 cărți. As you can see, had written is similar to mai mult ca perfectul din limba română, da? Scrisese, o acțiune trecută înaintea unei alte acțiuni, cum ar fi aceasta, când am plinit 29 de ani.
Great. So in this one, past perfect because action is finished, completed by the time he reached 29. So we are using past perfect. But if the action is going on, like in this one, it was New Year's Day and snow for about 12 hours. It was still going on in the past. Correct? So, Gabriela?
Okay, I think I will say it was New Year's Day and it had been snowing, for about 12 hours because we've got the time here for about 12 hours. So I know for sure how long.
For a long time.
Yes, it took. Okay.
What about this one? Clara think of what to write when suddenly she had a great idea for a story. So something going on in the past for a long time.
Very good. So Clara had been thinking of what to write when suddenly she had a great idea. Se gândise, se gândea, s-a gândit o perioadă lungă de vreme ce să scrie, când deodată, when suddenly, i-a apărut o idee, i-a venit o idee, cum zicem noi. To have an idea, okay? She had a great idea.
She had a great idea. And the last one, the crowd wait for hours. For a long time they were there before the president come. Here there are two verbs. Let's try to identify which was the first action, which was the second action. I think out here, the first action I would say, or rather the second action was the president came, but before that, the crowd was waiting. So
Very good.
we changed this to?
Yes, the crowd had been waiting for hours before the president came. Past simple, the shorter action, had been waiting. Okay, good. For hours. We've got time period, 4 hours. For
Again,
a long
time period.
Okay, good.
And now I guess it's your turn because with a little bit of work, we will all become perfect. These are just 8 questions. Gabriela and I would really feel quite happy if you could attempt these questions. Keep the rules in mind. Check out which one is in the simple past, which one is in past perfect, which one should be in the past perfect continuous action going on in the past.
Very good. So they have to complete the sentences with past perfect simple or past perfect continuous.
Today we were discussing the past perfect and the past perfect continuous. So these sentences need those two tenses, either the past perfect or the past perfect continuous. You can take a photograph if you'd like, and the next time we meet, we will review the past perfect continuous with these sentences. Till then, Gabriela,
Okay. Have a nice day, kids. I'm very happy you were with us today, and see you next time.
see you next time. But before we end, we must acknowledge that we did take a lot of help from YouTube and other websites. Thanks for being with us. And the next time, 8th graders, we will be talking about expressing obligation and modal verbs. So see you next time. Take care. Be safe.
Goodbye. Take care, kids. See you next time. Bye bye.